Okay, not going to do a blow by blow here. I'm just going to tell you what I'm going to do, and if there are any issues that I encounter along the way that I think you guys need to be aware of, I will show them to you. My plan of attack: remove the glove box first, then go at the center console and remove the electronics and whatever else is plugged in that needs to be removed. Then I'm going to remove the steering wheel. And then I think I'm going to have to remove the instrument cluster completely, but I'm not sure about that. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But that is the battle plan for the approach to removing the dashboard. So we'll see. I have already removed the battery. I saw some other videos where it said that you had to remove the battery tray as well. I'm not so sure about that. I'm not going to take the tray out right now. If I discover that I have to take it out, then I'll take it out later. So anyway, so we're going to get started, and you'll see me next explaining whatever issues I may have encountered. Bye for now. Okay, this is actually part of an effort to remove the dashboard in the car, and the steering wheel on the interior has to be removed in order to make that happen because of this lower cross part, if you will, to the dashboard. There's no way to remove it independently, so that means that the steering wheel sticking through this opening has to be removed. My recommendation, now having successfully removed it, I don't know about reinstalling it. That's seems like it's gonna be an adventure, but here's the skinny. You got 4 nuts. Where are we here? Here. Now just so you can see, I put the nuts back, and then here, over here. Can you see that? And then on the opposite side over here. 13 and 14 millimeters. And then you have the steering shaft itself, where there's a knuckle here and a bolt. If you can see that, my recommendation is to... Is this thing focusing? My recommendation is to remove the steering knuckle bolt first. It's kind of deep back there. It's a little awkward to get to, but if you remove the 4 bolts holding the steering wheel on and then you try to get that knuckle bolt off, the steering wheel is going to shift around, flop around on you, and it's going to be a little bit annoying. So I would take that bolt off first and then take the other 4 bolts off after that, and then... Sorry about the lighting. That's the knuckle. That's a little bit better lit image of it. And then the whole steering unit came out with a couple of yanks. Didn't really fight me. And then there's all of this wire harness joy, which you have to take off the steering wheel. I labeled some of it just to make sure that I didn't screw myself up with forgetting how it went back together, although I think that most of this it will fall back into place, or it should, but just in case, I did that. So that's removing the interior side of the steering wheel. Have read warnings from others about being careful about moving the steering wheel around once it's off, for fear of potentially breaking the clock spring inside the steering wheel housing itself. And let's adjourn and take a look at the steering wheel as it's off the car. Hang on, I'm going to turn the video off, turn it back on. Okay, let's try this again. The lighting sucks. And apologize for that, but I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm not a professional YouTuber, so I don't have all kinds of fancy lighting equipment. I'm just making a video that I think others might find a little useful, and trying to help out other people working on Jeep TJs. So I removed the steering wheel from my Jeep TJ in preparation for removing the dashboard. so that I can install an AC compatible airbox in my Jeep TJ as part of my overall effort to retrofit air conditioning into this Jeep TJ 2.5, because it did not originally come from the factory with air conditioning. So you have to remove the steering wheel because of the way that the dash is built, and so you have to, that's it. So basically you've got 4 nuts, which I've hopefully have already covered in the previous snippet. I say hopefully because I haven't seen it yet. Again, it could be a lighting issue. The knuckle, which is really what I wanted to talk about, down here at the end of the steering wheel has a bolt. I believe it is a 13mm bolt, which is awkward to get to in the car. And because of that, I removed the driver's side to give me a little bit more room. If you're a smaller guy or gal, you may not have to do that. I found it convenient. It's only 4 bolts to remove for the car, and since I've had this seat out before while I was dealing with the massive rust issues on the car, I knew that it would come off easily, and in fact it did. So the other thing that others have mentioned, and I don't know if it's true or not, and I'm not going to attempt to find out, is that once the steering shaft is disconnected from the coupling down here, in theory at least, if you turn the steering wheel a little bit too much, you could destroy the clock spring inside the steering wheel itself. So the word of the day is be careful. I did try a suggestion that I saw online about locking the steering wheel using its internal locking mechanism before removing it, but when I locked it, the bolt that holds on the knuckle, the steering knuckle on the interior of the car, was upside down, meaning that the bolt was towards the ceiling of the car and very awkward to get at. So I unlocked the car and took that bolt off and then gave it 2 tugs and it came right out. Maybe I should have locked the steering wheel before I took it off the knuckle, meaning after the bolt was loosened, but before I removed excuse me, the steering wheel from the knuckle, but I guess I wasn't that forward thinking or smart or whatever. So anyway, that's the steering wheel, or the steering column I should say, removed from the interior side of the vehicle. Nothing was disconnected on the exterior firewall side of the vehicle in terms of the steering shaft. This is all internal to the steering wheel. It wasn't all that difficult to remove. Unplugging the connectors that go into the back of the electronics on the steering wheel was a little tedious. I did have a small plastic part break, but overall it went better than I thought that it would. So that's it. This is really about notes on what to do if you have to remove the interior side of the steering column. And I'm putting this short video together because I didn't see any other videos on YouTube in searching YouTube that specifically addressed how do you remove the steering column on the inside of the car. So you also have to remove the cowling, which is right here. There are 2 screws in the bottom of the cowling that you have to remove, and then it pops off. And that's so that you can gain access to these connectors on the back of the steering column. So I won't know if the lighting here, is poor as it may be, is adequate enough to publish this video. I hope it is, because it would be a shame not to be able to publish this video with a few tips and pointers on how to remove this steering column from a Jeep TJ, since, as I said, I didn't see any videos specifically addressing this anywhere else on YouTube. So that's it for my Cliff Notes, and I hope you found this helpful, and if you did, maybe if you could click like, that would be great. Anyway, that's all. Thanks. Bye. Okay, quickie update here. Have not removed the old airbox yet. That's the next step. But I just wanted to point out that it looks to me like the center console needs to be at least partially removed, and in order to do that, there's a bolt in the back, and then there's another bolt there. I don't know if you can see that. So there's a bolt underneath the shifter if you've got manual shift. If you've got automatic, figure it out. And then there's another bolt there underneath the cup holder and the little rubber thing for the cup holder. I don't think you have to completely remove the center console. I think you just have to turn it so that you've got enough clearance to pull the airbox out. I just wanted to point that out to you. If it turns out that that was not the case, then I certainly will not post this little snippet and you'll never know. But I do think that you need to remove it and just kind of turn it out of the way, or remove it if you can, because I think that there's a clearance issue when you pull this airbox towards you to remove it from the firewall. So that's it. Onward to the airbox removal, and any footnotes or comments that you need to know about, I certainly will do another snippet on that as well. Here it is, people. The old airbox is out. Plenty dirty, to be expected. And the nice thing about the old airbox, I don't think that these are very popular in terms of reselling. And so I'm going to remove the actuators and whatever other spare parts I can from this thing in case I have a problem in the future. And you can see there's no outlet for evaporator, because there is not an evaporator on a non-AC airbox. I'm going to remove the blower and put that on the other airbox. I may wait until until the AC airbox is installed, because you can install the blower without removing the airbox, thank God. And so it was a bit of a pain in the butt to get it out. It didn't want to come out, but eventually it gave up the ghost, and it did. Let me show you the inside of the car. So here is the completely exposed dash, and this fuse box got in the way. I had to remove it in order to get the airbox out, and but that was not a big deal. And as you can see, it's pretty bare in here. I did that was definitely the right play. I had to remove the center console in order to get the airbox out. No big deal. That was an easy job. So that's it. So I got a little bit of prep work to do. I'm gonna clean up back here, and which won't take long. It's not super dirty on the firewall side. I'm also going to take an opportunity here to, since the firewall is completely exposed, I'm going to poke a hole somewhere in here and run a 12-volt connection directly to the battery for a future radio. Anyway, just thought that I would show you what it looks like once it's completely removed. One thing that I did forget, go ahead and laugh, that's okay. One of the reasons why this thing was a bit of a problem to remove was because I forgot to take the heater hoses off. So those clamps, I think, were catching on the edge of that firewall opening, and that's why the heater box kind of seemed stuck. And so, but eventually I figured that out, and I removed those two heater hoses, both of which did not have coolant in them. The radiator is full of coolant. I think that in the normal sense that heater box is a little bit above the level of the coolant when the engine isn't running. So I didn't have a lot of splatter, although I did have a catch basin in the bottom of underneath the vehicle just in case. And I didn't have any real interference problems with all of this auxiliary wiring that I did for my mid lights, my upper lights, and whatever. So that's it. So that's it for this update, and I will update you further when I install, or after I install, the new airbox, and let you know if there's anything that you need to know about. And before I put the dash back on, I'm going to review what you really need to remove or disassemble versus what you don't, because I over disassembled that, not knowing what I should remove or unscrew versus what I didn't need to. So I'm going to clue you in on what I found there soon enough. So onward and upward. I'll see you later. Okay, we're back with another footnote discussion, I guess. See this here? This is the old airbox, the non-AC airbox. And sorry about the lighting. As you can see, there's a hole. And that hole of the mounting screws or bolts for the airbox. And when this thing wouldn't let go, I gave it a tug and ripped this off the box. I guess I don't know my own strength. And this remained because it's now on. So I went to install the new firebox, and it wouldn't quite go on, and I fiddled with it for quite a while, and then finally realized that that chunk of plastic was still attached to the firewall, and that the mounting screw, which is the bottom mounting screw behind the engine, was still attached to the firewall, and that broken plastic part. Now let's go over to the engine so you can see what I'm talking about. That's the bolt down there, see it? So, pulled it off, and obviously I got the firebox installed. There's the blower opening. I haven't installed the blower yet. But otherwise, the new did I say firebox? The new airbox is installed. Now, I do have one thing that I need to do, which is going to take a day or two. And that is, we'll go around here to the engine again. There's a vent that goes on the exterior of the firewall back behind those connectors. And I took that vent off. It was completely clogged with debris, and it has a foam gasket at the top, which leads into the I guess what, the cowling for the car in there. And that foam gasket was totally shot, and so I've ordered some high heat foam insulation to replace that. It'll take a couple of days for that to get here, and I want to do this installation right, or as right as I possibly can. So I will wait for that insulation to get here before finalizing the installation of the airbox. But I just wanted to kind of point that out to you. Now, the reason that I encountered this problem is because, look in here, just one moment, come on, let's get back into the light. The reason I encountered this problem is because of this nut. And let me show you this. So this is that vent I was talking about that goes on the outside of the firewall, and the top goes into the cowling and this was completely filled, or almost completely filled with just debris, sticks and leaves and whatnot. But it's this. This goes over that lower bolt behind the or not behind the firewall, behind the engine that comes through the firewall that is attached to the airbox. This goes over that bolt. And there was a nut on both the outside engine facing side, and there was another bolt. I said bolt. There was another nut, two nuts, one on the outside and one on the underneath of this plastic part. I removed the nut that I could see, and it was a pain in the butt because it's down low and it's behind the engine. I had to use an open-end wrench to get at it. If you have a power right angle ratchet, then you might be able to squeeze a socket behind there. I'm not sure about that because it is a deep socket that you'll need. But anyway, so there was a nut hiding behind this thing that I didn't see. And so when I went to take the airbox off, it wouldn't come off. I gave it that tug and I wound up breaking the box unintentionally, not realizing that there was a nut under there. I think that that's unique to my car, but I'm mentioning it just in case it isn't. And I think that it's partly, I think that it's unique to the car because the engine on my Jeep, the 2.5, was replaced at some point in its previous life before I purchased it. And it could be that they took this vent off while they were swapping out the engine, and when they put it on, they put two nuts on for some strange, bizarre reason. I don't know. When I put this back, I'm going to use only one nut. I don't see the need to use a nut underneath and on top as well. So that's what my plan is. And I just wanted to mention that to you in case it is not unique to my Jeep, and there are others out there that you might want to take this vent off on the exterior firewall side just to make sure that there are no nuts lurking behind this thing that are going to bite you in the butt. And that's it for this little update snippet. More to come. See ya. One more thing. The top of this vent is what I was referring to before as being ringed by a foam gasket, and I've ordered high temperature foam material to replace this gasket, which I've since removed using some lacquer thinner. High temperature because it sits just behind the engine and presumably gets pretty hot. So I want to get that foam before I reinstall this vent. And just wanted to point that out, that it was all crumbly. It disintegrated in my hand when I tried to handle it, so it has to be replaced. So I want a good seal. If it had a seal before, then it's there for a reason, and I'm going to recreate that seal using some foam insulation that I've got on order. And that's it. See ya.